how it started, co-hosting networking events and roundtables for founders, how it's going, a Florida-based hybrid accelerator and seed VC fund helping early stage tech startups scale. Oh my gosh, you are going to love hearing this founder and funder's story. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I've got a pretty good idea of what you are crawling through every single day. The highs, the lows, the what the heck, it was a disaster to we're winners, we're amazing. It's the best of rides, right, as a founder. And I'm so grateful that you carved out time to tune into the Startup Life Live Show, because as you do better as a founder, your startup will do better. And we're here to help you with our conversations as we talk about startup life and all the parts and pieces that you need to know. So I'm hoping you're going to hear something during this show. And no, I'm not going to hope. I'm confident that you will hear something during this show that will add value and get you running back to your desk to create more awesomeness with your startup. All right, so wherever you are, if you're watching, yay, live, thank you. Be sure to click that like button and share this stream in your feed. Same with you live viewers and podcast listeners. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'm blowing you kisses from Boston. And please share the podcast, share the video, because as we reach more people, we have a greater impact, right, on what's going on and helping folks around the world. Not everybody lives in Boston, where the startup resources are amazing, or San Francisco, Miami, Berlin, London. You know, other founders are out there going, I don't know what community. And so hopefully we are providing the resources that you need to succeed. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please click on that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload or go live. And if you haven't done so already, hop on over and join the Startup Life Live meetup group. This is where you get the deep dive info on who we are interviewing and chatting with on the show. So be sure to join that and get the alerts. And that way you'll get the links for joining, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and if it's still alive, Twitter. We never know what's going to happen. It's so exciting, right? We're founders. We're used to those kind of variables and vicissitudes in life. So here's some Andelicious announcements for you, because there's always something happening in the startup world that might benefit your business. And I always start off with Arlen's Academy, because I'm telling you, she has everything you need to succeed and launch a successful business. It's all in one place right there. So go check it out. Also, we have this great place called the Innovation Studio here in our Boston area, but they're having a Driving 2043 Northeast Startup Program for those who have solutions for challenges in the electric vehicle industry. So go check out this opportunity if that fits your startup life. And the link is in the show notes and also on the screen right here. Do you know about this wonderful documentary being made called Girls Just Want to Have Funds? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Catherine Gray was on the show. She's doing remarkable work in the world, making sure women get funded, female founders get funded. So be sure to go and check out, donate, whatever you have, throw some money Catherine's way so they can get this film finished and out to the world. And speaking of getting funds, if you haven't joined Scroobius yet, please do use the promo code Ande15 to get 15% off. But this is human fundraising at its best. It's all about creating video pitch decks and supporting founders every step of the way to make sure you feel so confident and ready when you pitch to investors. And I want to do a quick shout out to a show that's coming up. It's on Giving Tuesday. It's with Build, one of my favorite organizations. We're going to be celebrating them on Giving Tuesday, November 29th at 12 p.m. ET. Come join us. This organization it teaches entrepreneurship in middle school and high school. They're amazing. Go check them out. It's build all caps.org. And we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful conversation on the 29th at 12 p.m. ET. So it's time to introduce this amazing guest that we have joining us today. I am fired up to introduce you to Justis Mendez. So let me just pull up some artwork here so you can check out his wonderful company. He is born in the Stockyard neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio, and raised by his grandparents and single mother. He went on to teach himself finance and build networks across the country. He founded Startup Q Parking, an Airbnb for residential parking, and led business development for Pinata, a fintech startup based in New York City, helping tenants earn rewards for paying rent. And in 2017, Justis co-founded OneSixOne Ventures, a hybrid accelerator and VC fund. Come on, let's give a wild and warm welcome to the one and only Justis Mendez. Got to get those clappers going around. Oh, the audience is going wild. I can feel it.
Thank you for having me.
Justis, how are you?
Great. Tired. I've been traveling for the past month, so.
Well, I bet you are. You are always around making things happen. So where's home base for you, and then where are you today?
Yeah, great. So caffeine is my best friend, as you can tell.
They're with you, clink, clink.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Cleveland, and just last week I ended up moving back for the winter. Unfortunately, my mom has some serious cancer. So I went to go help her out for the winter. She lives alone. It's really hard, to shovel yourself out to get groceries while you're going through chemo. So,
oh my gosh.
Past 8 years living in Florida. I'll be in Cleveland for the next 3 months as home base, and then plan to spend the beginning half of next year in San Francisco. So, and currently I am in New York City at a WeWork. So,
folks, this is it. Quintessential startup life. Unless
right.
You're raising kids, of course. But even then, as one of my favorite founders here in the house, Allison Byers. Thank you, Allison, for your wonderful words. She is the founder of Scroobius. You saw me just sharing that, guys. Remember, human first fundraising right there. Scroobius. This is Allison sharing the love. Ande, always promoting and supporting founders. Thank you. Well, thank you, Allison, for your kind words. So happy to have you in my circle. So here you are. You've come just such an extraordinary experience to get where you are today, and you're still staying fluid because that meeting people, getting out there, raising money for your fund, getting the tech founders through your accelerator is so important. But let's talk a little bit about the lived experience that gave you the tools, right, to do what you are doing today. I am a firm believer, as tough as life can be and harsh and heartbreaking, it also gives us what we need to succeed. Please share your story.
Yeah, so I grew up, like you said, in a really rough neighborhood. At the time, Cleveland was maybe top 5 most dangerous city in America, and grew up in one of the roughest neighborhoods. Yeah,
I am so ignorant. Had no idea Cleveland. I always think anything in Ohio, even anyway. So naive of me being here in the Northeast and not knowing that.
First city in America to declare bankruptcy. So it's after in the 80s, a lot of manufacturing left. So they call that area the Rust Belt, right? Like Detroit, big manufacturing, Cleveland, same thing, a lot of those cities. So, growing up, my mom works at General Motors at a factory. My grandfather worked on the railroad, so very blue collar background. But how I kind of really got interested into finance, specifically in 2008 when that happened. We almost lost the house. The stock price hit 0 at General Motors. So my mom lost her 401k. A lot of people got laid off. And I just remember seeing so many people leave the area. Houses are abandoned. And it made me think, how does all this work? And they kept telling me, well, the stock market crashed. And I'm thinking to myself, how does this work, right? The stock just randomly drops and everybody loses their money and people's houses foreclose. So that's where I first started to get really interested in like macroeconomics and how finance works. So from there, ended up living a very interesting life and ended up in Florida. So yeah.
You're moving and grooving, but you were curious is what I'm thinking, is that you saw the impact, 2 things, almost losing the house and stock price going to 0. Folks, when many of Justin's mom's age group and, grandparents were growing up through their career. That's what you did. Your investments were in the company that you were in. So when I was working at Bank of New England, may it rest in peace, the same thing happened. Only in 1992, they became overextended in real estate because we had our big real estate fallout here. This is a 150-year-old bank went under. And I saw people who had been working there their entire lives, counting on that retirement, right? Gone, wiped out. So I have a deep appreciation for what you felt and how that informed you. Okay, what are the trickle effects? What are the things that happen that cause this kind of intense and insane financial uncertainty? And I want to avoid that going forward and perhaps fix it, right?
Absolutely.
And so you went around, you got yourself informed about finance, economics. What led you into the startup world? What was it about entrepreneurship that made you feel like, ooh, this could be a great way to sort of get a little more control in my life?
Exactly. It's funny that you said that exact word, control. Right. Because that's, I think I started to really self-evaluate. And I think that was the biggest thing that I was looking for in my life. Coming up in this really rough environment, I realized that my life was always in somebody else's hands and that these people don't know anything. These people are very uneducated, very, rough background. And I'm like, I need to take control of my own life and control my own destiny. Because right now I'm not very confident in who's leading me, throughout life. So that's what kind of led me to the point where I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I first started selling shoes when I was 16, buying shoes from my friends. So there's something called a secondary market. Now people resell Jordans, and there's a company called StockX that's really big for selling all these different types of sneakers. So I would come to my friends and, maybe their mom bought it for them or somebody else, got the sneakers. I'd be like, hey, how about I buy your sneakers for $80, $100? And as you're a kid, you're like, $100, that's great. And then I'd list them on eBay for like $250 or $175. So I first started reselling shoes when I was 16. My first month, I made $1,200.
Oh my God, you're a Gary V testimonial.
Yeah. So, so that was my initial first business. And from there, I just literally, when I first turned 19, I started a company called IntelliHub, and I started doing web design, app development. And I literally figured out that by going on YouTube and typing in how to make $1 million. And it came up all these business ideas. And one of them was web design. I went on Fiverr and went on some of these other places and literally started to hire people from India. So I had no background in developing websites, hired web designers in India, and then started to close deals here in America.
Oh my gosh, hold on. I just have to say I'm having the best Andy-licious moment right now, folks. We were talking about this earlier. From constraints comes creativity. You got on YouTube, and trust me, Justis, there are plenty of experts and consultants out there. We all call it just-in-time learning. It's getting on YouTube. How do I figure this out? Okay, and now sell it, right? And sell that idea, sell that website, get someone to build it, and then oh my gosh, ideal. And so, what did that teach you?
That taught me a lot. So that helped me understand how to manage developers, how to create contracts, what's the best way to go out there and market your business. And then one of the bigger things that it actually taught me was that there was a ceiling, right? So while I'm building this, I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to be Mark Zuckerberg by building websites for small businesses, right? So then that's when I was like, okay, I want to launch an app. And then that's when I created Q Parking, which was like Airbnb for your driveway. And it was a great experience, raised some capital, got some users, closed some deals. And then that's when I ended up, the people at Pinata were very impressed with the progress and the community I was building and offered me a full-time role. So I ended up.
Which was great. And how big was Pinata then?
So they just raised their Series A. At that time,
yeah,
I was basically the first hire. So yeah, because they ended up, they kind of rebranded the original team. They decided to move forward with some of the original people and wanted to kind of restructure and start from scratch. So they rebranded, and then I was actually there before the current C-suite team. So.
Wow. I ask this because a lot of times going to work at a startup can teach you so much of what not to do, what to do. as you watch them stumble along, and you can take that with you to
Exactly. So yeah, being around other people that are more accomplished than me, was a great experience and learning from them. And I would say they're a lot more organized than I am. Just kind of, go after a little bit of everything and just try and hustle and put it together. But the organization piece was great. Learning.
Absolutely, because as a business scales and grows, you have to implement systems and procedures. The
Correct.
biggest challenge, of course, is that when you really blast out and leave the early stage and you get into full enterprise stage, that's why we see the bigger companies buy the smaller companies, because when you have that level of an engine moving forward, all those systems and procedures and checkpoints and everything, you're not as innovative.
Right.
And that's why when people say, oh, well, why wouldn't Google do what you're doing? It's, look, dude or gal,
right.
They're not going to do what I'm doing because I'm being scrappy, coming up with this idea in a very innovative petri dish.
And this is what we always tell startup founders too. It's the biggest advantage that a startup has is the ability to move fast, right? So for like how you're saying, Google, if there's an opportunity in the market, first they have to come upon the decision that they even want to go in that direction, then take all their current resources, redirect them, build teams around it. And it takes a lot longer. So the advantage that any startup has is I can move fast. It's for 4 people in a room. They can immediately be like, hey, let's start building it right now. Let's start coding it together. So
and that's very valuable, because you're going to quickly test, you're going to throw out what doesn't work, bring in more of what does. You're going to get, really ground feedback, right away from folks, whereas a big company would be doing a special focus group. I mean, I'm just slowing my talk down because that's what it feels like what happens. And so, and I love that you were agnostic as to how you were going to get to that million. You got on YouTube and you went, okay, this resonates with me. I kind of like the idea of technology. So what was it? Because there were lots of ways to, real estate. There's so many ways to earn $1 million, right? What was it about tech that just lights your heart up?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. So I always loved tech, and I always knew that it was going to be the future. Seeing my mom and my family work really, really hard, blue collar. I mean, my sister's husband right now still works in the steel yard and the steel mill down in Cleveland. My other brother-in-law is like a carpenter. So everybody just works with their hands. I went to a vocational school during high school for a year or 2, and they wanted me to be a mechanic. After like the first day, I was like, look, I can't wait till I make money. I'm never changing oil again. I hated it. It's just working in the cold, busting your knuckles, just this hard physical labor. And then at the end of the day, just the amount of output, right? Just how much work, and then the amount of money that you're making for it just didn't make any sense to me. And I didn't really it just didn't seem like something I wanted to do. So I wanted to work with my mind. And I saw that eventually, and I would always tell my mom, a lot of the work that they're doing in these factories will be automated by robots. And they all told me, you're crazy. It's never going to happen. Some of this stuff can't be automated by robots. You need to have humans there. And now look, fast forward more than 10 years, 15 years later, everything is starting to go in that trend where, the robots are going to take over some of those early easy functions that human beings are doing. So, I just looked at the trends and looked at the opportunity, and it was something that I wanted to do.
I love it. And folks, it's so important that you're fired up by what you're doing, because it's hard enough. And, you've got to be like so passionate about it so that when the hard days happen, you're like, I don't care. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to solve that problem. I just want to say a quick hello to one of our favorite fans. It's Brent Manuel. Everybody who tunes in knows that he's from Ottawa, Canada, a loyal fan. He is a diverse person, and he always talks about how a seat at the table is important for those with disabilities, whether it's visible disability or invisible, like our neurodiverse folks. Really, I love how we're going deeper into understanding what accessibility really means. And for our neurodiverse folks, when they have sensory overload, when things hit them differently, it doesn't mean they're not capable. It means that they have a different view and a way of processing information. So Brent, we are so happy you're here. And both Brent and Ruth, hi Ruth, community manager, Nairobi, we love you. They both are saying, we wish your mom a quick recovery. And, however this looks, we all know that it's very uncertain times with cancer, but I am glad she has her baby boy at home as a mom of They're always baby boys. Okay. It doesn't matter how tall you get or anything. You're a baby boys. And so I'm glad she has you there to hold her hand, Justis. That's wonderful. So let's move on and talk about OneSixOne and the launch story and everything. So first of all, I want to know, how did you meet Pablo? He's your co-founder. He's the one I first met when I was looking to have you guys on the show. Talk about that, please.
Yeah. So me and Pablo actually met at the Entrepreneurship Club at University of Florida. And it was a Tuesday night, pitch night. Everybody's pitching their ideas, which is a good sign. You know, it's Tuesday night. He could be anywhere in the world, and it's 7 p.m. And he's also pitching a potential startup. So that's a good sign. And then when he was talking about what he was trying to pitch, he was telling us that he runs these little mastermind groups with his friends, and they meet together one week and they discuss topics about tech and starting companies and where the markets are going in finance. And it was crazy because I was doing the same exact thing already with all my friends who are either industrial systems engineers, computer science. So we would meet up once a week at my house and we would play like certain videos about the future of tech, and then we would discuss them after. So I was immediately like, okay, this is perfect. You know, me and him should just come together and join forces. So yeah, we ended up becoming best friends. One of our biggest mentors, Martin Schaffel, he's a professor at University of Florida, exited for about $500 million liquid cash, 100% equity owner in his company.
Sweet.
It's called AVI. Now the stock ticker is AVISPL. But so yeah, he invited us to Tampa, where he started a community of high net worth individuals, very accomplished entrepreneurs, and they would get together once a month. Enjoy, you know, the fine spirits and cigars and talk and discuss the future and just kind of build this community of like-minded individuals. After that night, we were so mind blown. We went back to Gainesville and started something extremely similar, even called it the same name, just a different chapter. It was called the Empty Bottle Club, which
the Empty Bottle?
Empty Bottle Club. What the story behind that is, I'll make it quick. One of his best friends got diagnosed with cancer, and he was just like, you know what, we have all these special bottles of spirits that we buy, and you know they're so expensive. He was like, once we pass away, you know, our kids aren't going to enjoy it, or they might dump it down the drain. He was like, so I want to empty our bottles together. And basically the whole entire idea and premise is to enjoy what you have while it's here. You know, be present in the moment, enjoy what you have.
Yes.
You know, not wait for tomorrow.
110%. Yes. I love that. And you know what? That's a stitch that on a pillow moment, folks. I'm feeling that too right now. Enjoy the moment now. Do not wait until tomorrow, folks. This is it. Right this second, right now. Take a deep breath. You're in your bodies. Whew, taking it all in. I love that. I want to remind folks who are watching live, you please pop any questions or comments that you have into the comment threads during our conversation, because we learn together. Okay. And so your questions and comments are so important. And if you are a founder, please amplify your startup. Share your business name, one-liner, and website URL in the comments. We will showcase and celebrate you and your wonderful work live during the show. Thousands of views happen on this show, as well as the podcast downloads. So you never know who might be listening. Okay. So thank you for that. That's right, Brent. That was a stitch that on a pillow moment for sure. We love those words of wisdom from our guests. So why did you go with the name OneSixOne? Because, you know, you were talking about empty bottle, but then what happened? Yeah,
so we ended up, so with the Empty Bottle Club, it became one of the most popular events in North Central Florida for startup founders, investors, just building a community. Then the pandemic happened. And already towards when the beginning of the pandemic was happening, before that, we were already transitioning into rebranding, because as you can imagine, some investors or professors at UF didn't want to maybe come to an event hosted by younger, you know, kids called the Empty Bottle Club.
Yeah,
so we're like, yeah,
just like
the whole time. So we were like, okay, we have to rebrand, you know. So we go through these brainstorming sessions, and I like to help come up with names for startups. I have like an interesting process. Like, think about, what are we actually doing? Like, what? So let me give you an example with Q Parking, right? It's just like, okay, what is the actual business? What am I doing? I'm putting cars, I'm basically scheduling cars to be in a driveway. So scheduling, putting things in a queue, right? So the word QU actually came from the actual word putting something in a queue. So so when we were thinking about 161, I was just like, okay, what are we really doing with these startups? And thinking about, so what we're really doing is helping them grow organically and naturally. So the Fibonacci sequence is where we originally came up with the name.
The Fibonacci sequence?
Yeah, the golden ratio. And that's how things, naturalists argue that it's the most efficient path for growth in nature. So what we were thinking is, we want to help these companies grow organically and in the perfect ratio, not too fast, not too slow, just at the right part of organic growth where they could really build that foundation and be successful.
Oh my gosh, I love that, something fierce. Congratulations, because founders, you got to be careful. Don't go with the trendy name that you think people, resonate with. You have to resonate with the name of your startup, right, Justis? You have to feel really good about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's so good. So we've got a great question here, and it's from, and I'm going to say Daquan. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, from Bonnick Tomlinson. He's the co-founder and CEO of Hall Pass. Oh my gosh, you got to give me the one-liner for Hall Pass. And he's asking a great question of Justis. What are the biggest things investors look for during presentations? Ooh, that's a very good question. And by the way, Daquan, please go check out on, I have a great document over here. Let me just pull up go over to buymeacoffee.com/Ande Lyons and grab my investor questions and questions for investors documents there. Just download them. They're right there for free. That will help you as well. But Justis, to get back to you, what do you think is so important, to get back to Daquan's question here? What are the biggest things? Let me just grab it. Oh, nope. Here it is. What are the biggest things investors look for in a presentation?
So I think the biggest thing is traction, right? And you want to be able to not just have a traction slide, but the entire story is about traction, right? And traction could look in so many different ways, right? Like attracting the best talent, right? That's a form of traction. That shows that you can sell or you have something that people really believe in. And maybe it doesn't have to be top line revenue. Maybe it could be, signups or downloads or hacky ways that you're getting people to look at your product or use your product. So I think just throughout the whole entire presentation, making sure every slide or every sentence that you say is exuding your traction and your growth, and having like that North Star that you're going towards, that bigger vision.
Boy, is that great advice. What I've seen is, I co-hosted a monthly pitch event here for 3 years, and also mentoring for forever and having 4 businesses of my own. But what I've seen in the pitches is exactly that. So often the founders get they're so enamored, and understandably, it's like your first baby or first puppy. It's like, look at this beautiful thing. But you have to show where you have gained momentum. How are you reaching those customers? What are their responses? Who's signing up? Are they slapping down a credit card? All those parts and pieces. So we love that question, Daquan. And hold on, he is going to give us some more information. He says, I truly believe EdTech is going to be a dominant market in the coming years. What are some ways you've seen people stand out in their respective spaces? Oh my gosh, he's filled with great questions today. Okay, Daquan. Thank you, Daquan. It's great when you're live and people can tell you, Ande, it's Daquan. So what do you think, Justis, about that? That's a great question.
Yeah, I think there's 2 answers to that. So we actually invested in an ed tech company called Universe. And I think one thing that I could say that just clearly shows that they're a dominant market leader and soon to be, powerhouse is the head of product at Meta came on formerly as an advisor and invested. So just kind of that positive signaling is very important. Closing contracts with the city of Newark, and it doesn't always have to be in the general market. Find one maybe niche part of it and just show that you are an expert in that area. So maybe you could start off by posting on LinkedIn about market trends and insights. and just showing that you know your market. I think that that's a great way to start. Maybe if you don't have all the customers or all the advisors and investors that are at that level, maybe just start to show that you know your market, and post on Twitter, post on LinkedIn. And I think a lot of people will start to see, okay, this person's doing their research. This person puts together great information, very concise. And I think that that's a great way to use this top-line funnel.
That is an outstanding answer. Seriously. And again, I've seen so many wonderful pitches, and that is very, very important. And he's saying, yay, hit me up, Justis. Yay. Yeah, I'm sure you two will connect and magic will happen for sure. So why was it important to you and Pablo to have the combination of an accelerator and a VC fund?
Great question. So we originally, a few different parts. So when, especially during Q, this is like 2016, there was no real early stage venture capital in Florida. Even now, there's a lot more, like 100x more, 10x more.
It's amazing over the last 4 years what's happened. Yeah,
I know, it's insane. And shout out to Mayor Suarez for really helping, pump all those investors and dollars into Miami, which has trickled over to a lot of other cities. But yeah, so especially at that time, there was no early stage capital, and I always wanted to find out how to solve that. All of our friends were leaving Florida. So we were like, okay, we need to create something that would help early stage founders get dollars. So we looked at Y Combinator, and that was our biggest inspiration. So we saw what YC's doing. They have an accelerator, they have, investors, they have demo day. And we were like, okay, we need to create an East Coast YC. And, obviously it's going to be a little bit different in some ways, but yeah, that was our biggest inspiration. So that's why we went after that model of having a hybrid accelerator as well as VC fund. And really quick to double down on that, I think as far as any ecosystem, anybody listening, if you want to build a really great tech ecosystem, it can't only have capital and it can't only have programming. You need both of them. You need people to learn and educate, right? And you need the capital as well. So we provide a network, we provide resources, we provide capital, all the above, which I think is very important.
It is super important. And folks, Justis is absolutely right. Founders, you know this to be true. Enough with I'm over mentored and undercapitalized, and it can be really difficult. What does seed money look like to you, Justis? What is that dollar amount where you think you have the best impact on a company?
Yeah, so we right now are writing $100,000 checks just because of the portfolio construction. The way that our portfolio is set up, we want to get into about 30 deals. I think we are going to pivot to raising even more capital and write $250,000 checks.
Justis, can I just say thank you? Because there's so many funds out there, and yes, $25,000 can go a long way. Do not get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing that, but $100,000, that gives you a runway, right, Justis?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think at the seed stage, I think $250,000 to $500,000 is a good raise.
Yeah.
Some people, they want to do way bigger rounds. It depends on where you're at. Maybe if you're in San Francisco, it's a lot more expensive. But if you're living somewhere where you can hire great talent for a fair price, I think that that's a great amount of money to be able to get started.
And so you're saying that OneSixOne writes checks for $100,000, or do you participate in seed rounds?
Yeah, no, we write checks of $100,000.
Oh my gosh. Again, get the clappers out. That's wonderful. This is what's also so important, Justis. This is your fund. And so you represent. So you're able to fund people who look like you. This is the biggest challenge, especially for those in our Latino community. They're way down in the bell curve of who gets funded.
Right.
And you hear us women, complaining all the time, but literally you have the biggest soapbox to stand on. And so it won't change unless, people who look like you invest in people who look like you. So this is wonderful. And that's serious, serious dough, in my opinion.
We've invested in a single woman founder, Latina from Venezuela. She's an immigrant from Venezuela. This is great, amazing, super impressive. Daniela Blanco, Synthetics, go check it out.
Oh my gosh. We'll get her on the show. We want to amplify her. That would be love. That would be great. So, and what I also love about the hybrid, the combination of an accelerator, one of my favorite organizations out there, funds, Beta Boom does this too, bringing the people in, giving them the funding they need and the education and the mentorship that they need. It's so important, founders. Nothing prepares you for this journey. So talk about what you bring in your accelerator program that you think is really helpful to tech founders.
Yeah, we bring in, so we have a 10-week curriculum, goes over everything from legal formation to understanding convertible notes, safe agreements, term sheets, help them with their pricing schemes, help them with community building within their organization, externally as well. So each week, we actually try to bring in a really great high-class speaker. So not only are you learning from us, but also learning from the best. So we've had Rob Chestnut, former Chief Ethics Officer of Airbnb. We've had Mayor Gupta. He was the former VP of Growth at Spotify. So we're bringing in some really great people. We've had the co-founder of Whatnot come on, which is now a unicorn as well. So we're bringing in, top tier speakers that are coming and speaking to you in a very closed setting, going over their talk and then also doing Q&A. Another really big thing is just even having that network of other founders that are in your same stage, right? So learning from somebody else, sharing ideas, sharing resources and connecting is a really big part of it. And having somebody to kind of hold you accountable is really important at this early stage. You're by yourself. You're kind of, oh, I'm sleepy in the morning. But each week we also have these weekly check-ins. We're like, hey, what'd you do last week? What do you want to do next week? What's holding you back? What do you need help with? And then we're constantly tracking them over this 10 weeks. And every founder always says, man, I'm so happy that having this and having you stay on top of me actually makes sure that I accomplish these.
Exactly. You're solving one of the biggest problems, which is that whole shifting from the employee mindset to the owner mindset. So yes. Once you get past that 21 days of having your feet held to the fire, you start to internally start doing that for yourself. And right. That's the beauty of that program, as well as all the pesky details that, again, founders, there's really nothing that prepares you for this. And then finally, Justis, what you're giving everyone is the most important ingredient of all that I believe for a successful startup, which is founder peer support.
Right.
Because nobody understands what you're going through unless they're another founder. And you can't be dumping this on your loved ones in your life and your friends who don't want to hear about it anymore because they're tired.
Right, 100%.
Whereas the fellow founders are like, yeah, and then what happened? Oh my gosh, whereas everybody's like, oh, please, can we talk about
something else? Yeah, something fun.
Oh, Daquan, you're really adding value to the show today. I'm so grateful that you're here. He's asking a great question, which is what internal roles really stick out to VCs in those beginning stages, if any? And he, explains over here that, he's, his team consists of dev, a social media pro, and our lead ops officer. But what sticks out, and I think a lot of that may have to be depending on what type of business you have and what you, the founder, are bringing to the plate. What have you seen, Justis?
Yeah, so we invest strictly in software companies. So obviously having great devs, I think is the biggest standout. Having a really good development team. Also having some technical background yourself. You don't have to. It's not like the end of the world, but it's great to have some type of expertise and market insights into what you're doing. So yeah, I mean, it's great to have the ops role because I think that's one thing that a lot of founders super early kind of burn out with is like you're doing sales yourself, you're doing operations yourself. You might be also developing the product yourself. So it kind of gets spread thin. It's good to have somebody help out with operations. One thing that I really like to see also, aside from the first most important person, which is like who's going to build the product, is I need to see somebody on the team that can sell. I like to see it in the founding team, but if that's, not always the case, you have to have somebody who can sell on your team. If not, it's just not going to work. You can have the best idea ever. You could, but if nobody knows about it and you can't close deals, it's not going to go anywhere.
I love that advice. Something fierce. It's, folks, ideally if you build it, they'll come, but that never happens.
That never happens. That's not the truth, right? And I think that that's one thing that's overlooked. People love to see this amazing technical talent, and that's very important. But I always look to see, is there somebody on this team that can sell this thing? And if not, you have to find somebody who can sell this thing.
That's right. That's most important for you to go out, because folks, you can find the dev team, but those who are going to bring it to market and get the customer acquisition happening, creating long-term value is what's so important. And that's a huge investment for you, whether it's you bring them on as a co-founder and they get equity in the deal, or you pay them well. It's just absolutely a must-have. So how do you decide who's going to be in the accelerator program? What's the criteria, and how do you fill your funnel with founders to apply to the program?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest criteria is you at least have to have a product in the market. We don't take pre-product companies. We did in our first cohort, and there was like maybe 2 or 3, because they were impressive people, and there was 2 or 3 founders that were pre-product and kind of building out the rest of their product. After the 10 weeks, they were still pre-product. So there's not a lot that we could really help with at that point. So we want to make sure you can build a product, have it in market. It'd be great if you had some type of traction, customers, revenue, because that'll help us help you more. But we have an application, and it should be on our website. But the application asks a lot of different questions that helps us understand about, your bigger vision and your traction. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we need to see that vision. We need to see unique market insights. So, for example, one of our favorite founders was actually the first investment out of our fund, and he went through our first cohort.
Wow.
Blake Richardson, Ease Alert. And, he's building tools for first responders. And we were asking him, why are you building this? And he was like, my dad's a firefighter. My family's all firefighters. And, I see the problem with the alerting system. And if I don't build this, because we asked him, what happens if you don't build this? He's like, I feel like I let my dad die and let him down. Because the #1 cause of death for in line of duty firefighters is heart attack and stroke. So he's helping, instead of these loud audible alarms that actually create a startle response, increase your blood pressure, increase your heart rate over time, which can lead to heart attack or stroke.
Sure.
Building a pre-alert system that gives you a small vibration on your wrist. So he has unique market insights. He grew up around this problem his whole entire life. His family all tells him about it, and he understands it. But also, he's tied to the problem where if he doesn't make this happen, he feels like he let down his family and let his dad die.
Wait.
Yeah. Now, let's say a worse answer. Somebody answered that same question. Hey, why are you doing this? He said, I want multiple streams of income. And it's like, you're not, as a startup founder, you're going to make negative money.
That's right. That is not enough to get you through the day to scale ever.
If you're doing it for money, you're going to quit for sure, because it's going to be hard. Elon Musk says starting a company is like chewing glass and staring out into the abyss, right? You're gonna be living off ramen noodles. You're not going to be making money. You're going to be working very hard. It's challenging. It's great. It's the most rewarding thing on earth that you can do. Right. And I think that these people who are founders are some of the greatest human beings on earth, because they're solving problems. That's what it comes down to: solving a problem, not making money. You make money as a result of you solving the problem.
Oh my gosh. All right. I've just got to bring this up, folks, because this is another incredible moment. That gets the big founder journey applause for those of you who are listening on the podcast, because this is the truth. All right. And when Justis was talking about the gentleman building the business for the firefighters, the tech for the firefighters, the first responders, he has the ideal thing investors look for, which is the founder product fit. A lot of times we don't have that, and we have to come up with why. You've shown tenacity and your persistence, and you've built things along the way. If you don't have that, but he does. He is personally involved, and that makes it a really good investment for the investors, because they know that he doesn't want his dad to die. And he's passionate about what these folks have had as a serious problem. So, Justis, that's like the best example ever that we would say in Boston ever. I have, another question about the fund. You need to bring on mentors as well. And a lot of times this is volunteer roles, people who want to give back, who want to be involved in the excitement of mentoring an accelerator program. How do you recruit those? And as well as investors for your fund?
Yeah, luckily me and Pablo laid a lot of groundwork before we started this. Yep. So a lot of people knew us, high net worth individuals, and just accomplished people knew us from building out this communities, building programming, and just being very active. So we already had a great network to start with. And then luckily me and Pablo are both super hard workers, like no sleep, and pretty good on LinkedIn. So yeah. I message a lot of people, cold outreach, I convert a lot.
And you ask.
Yeah,
I bet you ask. Yeah,
exactly. Hey, can I get a few minutes of your time? One of our mentors asked for 10 minutes of his time, and it's been about 2.5 years now. So,
folks, I'm always telling you, always ask. The answer is no unless you ask, and so you've got to do that. And one of the things too that I love what you said is about founders and who they are. Folks, let me tell you, if anybody's watching you launch a business and going, what are you doing? Giving up the paycheck and everything. Let me tell you this, you always win when you launch a business, no matter what happens. You are going to tap into skill sets and parts of you never would have uncovered or discovered without this journey. Right, Justis?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so no one succeeds alone. You've been at this for a while now. You've mentioned a few folks that have helped you. Who added wind to your sails or opened doors to help lift you up?
Yeah, a lot of people. I think Martin Schaffel, that original guy that I was talking about, was some of our biggest supporter. And we've had a lot of mentors over the time, but just him being so accomplished and him believing in us and bringing us to see some of this stuff in person. Like I always say, they ask me, why'd you leave Cleveland? And, my first 8 months in Florida, I slept in a walk-in closet. That was maybe as big as this call box that I'm in WeWork right now. A little bit bigger, maybe 2 of these call boxes. But so for him to just like believe in us and bring us in, it's hard to build something that you've never seen before. So that's why I left Cleveland. I needed to see it to be able to build it. And when he showed us what he built, we were like, wow, okay, here's the blueprint, which, helped us kind of build out the rest of the community.
That's right. And you saw what you needed to do.
Yeah.
And this journey is always fascinating as you pull on the threads. But folks, as Caroline from earlier this week said on the show, a lot of hard work is how the luck happens.
Right.
And that's what you've been able to do. Daquan, this is another really great question because, Justis, we know from the beginning of the show that he is traveling everywhere. He's showing up everywhere. Daquan is asking, what are some emerging markets that you have your eyes on?
So I've been having this conversation recently. I think that cybersecurity, honestly, is going to continue to get way bigger. It's not an emerging market, but it's going to continue to grow. I think the future of warfare, unfortunately, is going to be all cyber-based. Everything that we do is, on internet and on these devices. And if people could hack into these and control these, you can.
And you can know this, Justis, as a female perspective for the femtech world, with all the eyes on women and the tech that they're using to track their reproductive cycles on every level and their health and every level, cybersecurity is really important now more than ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want anybody to have that data.
No, you don't. I love that. What else has been tickling your fancy?
It's a lot.
Yeah, cyber is enough right there.
Yeah, right there.
And, I think supply chain, technology that helps the supply get out there, Daquan, is really fascinating right now. And of course, in the climate tech, some of the things they're figuring out. I volunteer with a HULT Prize, which is a wonderful international organization, has $1 million prize every year for founders startups solving really tough climate challenges. This year, it's all about clothing. And also, I'm fascinated, and I'm sure you are too, Justis, by all the different tech companies that crop up as problems need to be solved. And
smart manufacturing, I think, is actually an emerging market that's going to get way bigger. And being back in Cleveland, I was just like, man, I wish there's more like smart manufacturing companies, because it used to be a manufacturing powerhouse, and obviously all those jobs left the country. So I think countries need to get back to producing their own stuff.
Oh, I think we will. I think the CHIPS Act is going to bring back a lot of manufacturing. And of course, the climate things that are happening here too. It's going to be wonderful. So when you are feeling, challenged by this journey that you're on, because I got to tell you, it's a pretty big deal that you and Pablo through 161 have been able to pull together this 10-week accelerator program where you dive deep in helping the founders as well as funding these startups. Is a really big, hairy, audacious idea that the two of you came together. You were willing to ask folks and get that help. But I'm sure there were some dark days of the soul for you both while you were pulling this off. What helps you stay focused when you're feeling inadequate or just discouraged, the hashtag why bother days?
Yeah. And this goes back to actually, I had to rethink about it. One of my biggest mentors is actually my grandfather. And this is what always helps me just keep on working. He helped raise me, him and my grandmother. He came to this country with 10 cents, slept in farm to farm on haystacks, picking cherries every day. While my grandmother was pregnant, she would just eat as many cherries as she could so she could live and survive. When he was a young man, like 12, 13, he used to wake up before the pigs would wake up so he could eat out of the pig trough, the corn, because so many kids in his neighborhood died of starvation. Growing up, me and him used to look for pennies on the street, literally just for fun. So when I think about it, oh my God, I'm going through a hard time, going through a difficult time. I think back to my grandfather. What would he do? This guy came here and slept in hay barrels, haystacks, and ended up making it here in this country. I'm going to work so hard. Oh my gosh, I don't have Wi-Fi right now. Or this person said no to me and I'm not getting as many contracts or investors that I want to get. And I really think about how much harder it could be. And right now I'm in such a blessed position and I'm complaining about it. I'm like, man, my problems are somebody wishes they could have my problems.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what you've highlighted with this comment is the fact that your startup folks deserve this level of effort.
Right.
You need to show up like this. We're not talking about a grind that burns you out. We're talking about the right level of effort, the right type of work, where you're managing your time, but you are willing to put in the long hours instead of streaming some show for 8 hours on TV. You're willing to forego a great party or concert because you really have a deliverable that's so important for you. Your startup needs that level of oxygen. Yes, Justis?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest parts, I think, of leadership. So, the cost of leadership is self-interest, right? So you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things that you want to do to be able to, provide security and safety for others and provide resources for others. So I think that's hi, Sen. I love her.
Don't you love Sen?
Yes.
Sen, you are beloved around the world. Thank you for stopping by and saying hello to Justis. Everybody, we had Sen on the show, and she is a co-founder of Mendoza Ventures, and she is one of the most remarkable founder active advocates and startup champions out there. They focus on fintech, AI, cybersecurity. And I'm so delighted, Sen, that you stopped by and say hi. Go follow them everywhere they glow and get a picture of the VC puppy. No, you are, Sen. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this journey has served you. You've given us wonderful insights because your journey is very special. It really is. You have pulled yourself out and you've been hyper-focused. And I know a lot of that's in your DNA and how you were indoctrinated as well. But still, you applied a lot of great talent as well as skills to what you're doing. How has this journey served you? Being an entrepreneur, being an accelerator, program director, being an investor. How has this journey served you both personally as well as professionally?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that this journey helped give me a platform, just like how right now somebody wants to interview me. And this platform I want to use to be able to show other people that they can do it. Kids from my neighborhood who think that they can't, people who maybe listen from across the United States or even across the world who feel, I don't have anybody in my corner who could advise me or mentor me, and nobody looks like me at these tables. So, I think that this is the biggest thing, is that I want to be able to provide a platform and use that platform to encourage others to chase their dreams and that they could do it too.
Oh, Right, everybody? Come on. Well, you've certainly done it here and blessed us with your presence today in the Startup Life Live show. How may we add wind to your sales?
Yeah, so we're always looking to connect with founders, investors, just great people. So we're on all social media channels. We're on LinkedIn, website, Instagram, Twitter. So always just love to connect with more people. Always looking for more opportunities to speak and help mentor others. So yeah, those are some ways that we can get involved.
Well, everybody, you see all the links here are in the show notes. They're going across the screen the whole time. Justis is here for you. And let's say a quick hello to another phenomenal founder, Olgi, founder of The Different Sneaker. It's a heelless sneaker. And he's saying, Andy, how are you? Always tuning in as usual. Justis, this is amazing. And entrepreneurs can definitely benefit from it. Awesome work. Oh, thanks for stopping by and sharing your glow, Olgi. These sneakers are really awesome. His family, you'll appreciate this, sent him to China for a year and said, good luck, son. We've put all our money into you. Go figure it out.
Love it. When you're backed up against the walls, when you're going to figure it out.
That's right. That's right. And yay. One of the things that is so important that you've kept mentioning too is the representation. So I am grateful that you are here representing and on the show and letting folks around the world know if Justis can do it, you can too. And of course, sure, it's been done before. Maybe Justis and Pablo have got their way of doing it, but you can create a way that you do it too for your people. And so look, can I just bring this up real quickly? Can you tell me a little bit about this shot? I found this on the web. I don't know if this is.
Yeah, so that's one of the Empty Bottle Club events that we used to throw. So
oh my gosh.
Venues all the time, get together some of the brightest students, founders. We would get professors and investors and mentors and just get everybody in the same room. Yeah. And if you're looking for a way to start a community, start with networking events. I think that's building a community is so important. And I think as an organization or an individual, if you can build a community, I think that, that gives you 10x leverage on everything you're going to do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Any final words before I pop you into the green room and wrap up the show?
Yeah, I think something so the Empty Bottle Club events, every event, we used to end it with this quote. So I'll end this with the same quote. If you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. That's a Stitch That on a Pillow moment too, everybody, right? Thank you, Justis, for gracing us with your wonderful, delicious presence. I'm going to pop you into the green room and wrap up the show. Hopefully you can stick around so I can give you a quick hug. Folks, was this not amazing? And I just want to say thank you to all the great folks tuning in today. Hey, Alicia, it was so great to see you in the comment threads as well. And Olgi and Daquan, everyone, thank you. And Brent, thank you for tuning in. I just want to remind everybody, it's so important that you ask for help. Really reach out, go talk to people. There are folks, remember, I think it was Mr. Rogers said, go find the helpers. Do that with your startup as well. They're there, they want to help you. And I know you'll find the right folks. And thank you so much, Logan, for stopping by and saying hi. Thank you so much for that. One final thought that I want to remind everybody is that it's just so important that you remember this. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem. And as we say here in Boston, you are wicked smarter than you think. You've got this. I'm cheering wildly for you. Stay in touch, and I'll see you next time on the Startup Life Live show. Bye, everyone. Wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers.